Right, okay. So again, welcome students. Welcome to Employer Insights with Adobe. My name is Lisa Tchaikovsky. I am the Assistant Director of Employer Engagement. And my colleague here, Edlyn Hernandez. Edlyn, did you want to introduce yourself to the students?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Employer Insights with Adobe. My name is Edlyn Hernandez. I'm an Employer Engagement Specialist with the San Jose State Career Center, and I will be assisting Lisa and Cass today on today's presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Lisa so she can introduce Cass.
Yes, and so we are very, very excited to have Cass Taylor. He is the Purpose Marketing Lead at Adobe. We are so excited that he's here today. Hi, Cass. Did you want to say hello?
Yes, hello to everyone. I'm extremely excited to be a part of this. As I indicated earlier to everyone, I wish I had this opportunity when I was in college. That's all I have to say, to be able to ask questions about things that you want to get yourself into. So I'm excited. Understand that this is wide open. Once we get the Q&A session, ask the question, ask the hard ones, ask the soft ones. This is a great opportunity for you guys to find things out.
Yes, great. And students, if you do have questions, just to let you know, you can always pop them into the chat. When we get towards the end of the session, we will have a Q&A. However, if we do see some questions popping up that's related to some of the questions and answers that we are hearing today, we will address it. But we will have, you will have an opportunity towards the end to ask your questions with Cass. So to let you know about that. Edlyn, next slide. Okay, so Cass, tell us a bit about your role at Adobe and how you got started in your career.
Okay, well, I have a beautiful update that get to tell you guys about my new role. And my new role is not lead, lead purpose marketing lead. It's not no more. I just accepted a role as a sports marketing manager. Now, the thing is, how did that happen? It has to do with my full career. My hands are in a whole bunch of things in a career, but based more on visual strategies or brand strategy. So that's part of all that. So what Purpose Marketing Lead was actually coming up with strategies to come up with marketing, you would say, architectures that help bring Adobe's brand into areas that really we don't really play in or have strong brand loyalty. For example, I would like to know, like, how many people seen our Adobe Max conference, right? And the majority of people normally hasn't seen it. So I put up strategies on how to get that more exposed to another, you would say 5.2 million people as we had last year on the virtual scene. And in my career, it based off of, started as in college, I was a graphic designer. I got a commercial art AA degree, then thought I had a basketball career, but I realized I was only 5'11". And then I went to art school in San Francisco, focused on graphic design and computer design. And from there, my jobs ranged from everything from investment banking to sports apparel, and to the tech industry. So I was able to take all that and curate into a long career that has to do with more brand strategy throughout all those pieces. At the same time, I get to dabble in as a designer to be able to create anything. So like right now, I'm more of a visual communicator. And what that means is that I can pretty much tell a story of any visual aspects. I can redesign a room to do a website, photo shoot, video shoot. I can be in front or behind the camera and things like that.
That's great. Thank you so much, Cass. Information. So with that said, how can students build relevant skills and experiences for internships and jobs? And Do class projects count as experience as well as co-curricular activities?
Yes, that's always a really good question. You know, the relevant skills that's needed and experiences, you do need those on the surface, right? But you're going to hear this through me this whole period of time. Everybody's smart and everybody's good, right? And it comes down to how those skill sets, how do you propose those skill sets in that particular role, right? And how do you exercise that when your interviews and things like that? Some of the relevant skills is you got to be a quick learner and accept coaching. Those are the two big things when talking about internships, because as good as you are from a credential standpoint, how are you going to work on that team? What are you going to learn from there, right? I have internships usually every year, right? And I go through probably about 70 to 100 resumes and portfolios, and everyone's good. Now, what skill sets that separate you from the others? Give you a quick story on that carries into what projects, if school projects count. Everyone has school projects when you're in school, right? And they're very good. You follow the criteria and things like that. But what did you do outside of that makes it more of, unique to you, right? And give you a great example of someone I did hire. She recorded herself 365 days in 1 year and put it together in a compelling video. So what happened with that to me was that she did it on her own. That's initiative. 2, she was committed to that project, at least for 365 days. And then she put it together in a special way where it wasn't daunting. It was probably a 2-minute video at that point. But I got to understand her life all the way through. So to me, I know if I give her a project, she'll get done with it. She'll do it. I understand that she is committed to a project if we dive into it, and she's willing to work hard. So those are the things that separate the two. My advice when it comes to class projects, do count. Do something on the alternative piece, right? Outside of a school project. So if you do something, we would say a UX type of project, do a real world situation. Find a company and just reestablish an app and see what the user experience is. So it shows that you're applying what you're learning directly in a real world situation at that point. And co-curricular, yes. So think about diversity, right? Not diversity by color, gender, or anything, but by diverse thinking. I had one intern who was actually from MIT, and she just was like, I need to be on your team. And I'm like, I need a designer. I don't need someone like yourself. I don't even want to mess up your career moving forward by just being a designer. But she was so adamant about being on the team. So her skill set, what I gave her from a coaching standpoint, made her into a juggernaut at that point. She was able to take an idea she created a banking experience on an app, right? Was able to design it as a proof of concept and be able to pitch it to a job of what she did at the internship, pitched it at this particular job, and execute and talk about all the technical sides of it too. Here's the vision, and this is how it will work. And she got the job. It's a very, very good job in New York. So that co-curricular piece of it is great. I deal with athletes and everything, and that's another piece. I dealt with people who are musicians. Just think about how to be a musician, how dedicated you have to be to learn your craft and the small things. Those things cross over when you start talking about real world situations when it comes to work.
Great, thank you. That's really great advice. So just for students, class projects do count. So those are great pieces that you can show to employers what you can do. So, Cass, what are your top resume tips? Does an actual person ever read a resume submitted online?
Trick question. Yes and no. They don't read every one. So imagine, let's go back a few years when paper resumes was like a real thing. A recruiter would have a stack of them. It's not a job to read through resumes, every day, and that's it, and assume, because what happens when you get to number 86, right? You're tired, you went through it all, it all looks the same. So what they do is look for keywords, right? Keywords that fit the actual job description in some way, right? Job description is, hey, we'll just do some real basic of I'm a painter, right? And the job description is someone that can operate, very difficult and complex equipment. Just say that, right? In your resume, it has to fit with a keyword that matches that for them to align it with that. And it's got to be prominent within the first 1 or 2 bullets that really kicks it, right? Always have an overview of who and what you're trying to do with certain keywords in there that represent, that can trigger some of these recruiters, with that being very interesting. Now, I'm gonna say it again, like question 2 right now. What would separate your resume from everyone else, right? Myself, which I gambled, but it worked. What I did was I added logos of the companies I worked at. So when they saw my resume, they could scan quickly and see that, oh, he worked here, here, and here. Worked like a charm, because they knew exactly. And I happened to got lucky and worked at some prominent, companies that had really strong logos. So therefore, that's enough for them to read into my first 2 bullets. And then I bolded my keywords. That's just a designer in me. But my recommendation is really is really focused on keywords that match job descriptions. So, and you can't just have one resume. I hate to say that, if you really want to do this, you got to have multiple types of resumes that fit different industries and different job description. So you don't look like it's just across the board. I'm just trying to find a job anywhere. You want to be focused on, I'm trying to find this role at your company. It's more personalized at that point. And right now, as much as Adobe gets as far as submissions, there's a scanning process of technology that scans resumes for, school you went to, keywords, actually look at your hobbies and things like that a lot more nowadays to see about separations, what type of person you are at that point.
Great, thank you. So students, just remember that keywords are really, really important. Looking over the job description, look for those keywords. Make sure that you have some of them in your resume, and also too, like Cass said, make sure you have a targeted resume for each position and or employer, because it makes a huge difference. You want to make sure the employer wants to see that you've done your homework,
right?
Of who they are. So, so Cass, what are your top tips on how to build a professional network? Mm-hmm. What works and what doesn't work on LinkedIn?
All right, here's the thing. I just got off the phone previous to this with a young man who reached out to me on LinkedIn, right? And I would say, a closed mouth don't get fed is probably the biggest advice I can say. So in building a professional network, find people who you want to adhere, you want to be as, or a position you would like. It could be CEO, it doesn't really matter. It could be, the king of the universe. The idea is to always reach out in a humanized way. Like, hey, I just want to get to know you, know what you do in a professional network. Because a lot of times when people talk about networking, it's just connecting and hopefully, we have some synergy together and you can help me. But when you personalize your professional network, it becomes personal. People have a tendency to reach out and help you a lot more in connecting dots for you. And that's what a professional network is. When you need, access to certain things or people that can help with that within your network. And plus, it's a great learning tool especially for at the levels that you guys are, being able to just learn from professionals that's in the trenches, right? Learning from an academic standpoint, as you sit there, it's a lot different than the real world. It will help you academically, knowing how things are being done in the real world. And then you bring it back to how you obtain and learn at that point. So I think that's a big, huge thing. On LinkedIn, just posting just like any social media, just posting, hey, I got a cool job, I got an internship, I kind of done this, right? You know, your really good things. It's really good to show who you are from a professional standpoint, right? Personally and professionally. Like some of the things that you do that will separate you from everyone else. If you volunteered for, you know, the local homeless shelter, right? Talk about that story and what that means to you, because now you start to personalize yourself, right? And your thoughts and your feelings, right? One of the biggest things I can tell you is that everyone tries to come with that same framework of, you know, I've obtained this, I got this, and I have that. But who are you though? Who am I going to be dealing with? Who I'm going to work with? From a professional network, people should be reaching out to you and saying, hey, I can help you because I've been following what you've been doing, right? Versus what you've just been accomplishing, right? Those things are important, but I think that's where it needs to be. I work with tons of students in developing that branded story of themselves, right? Specifically in student athletes, and it's been working pretty big as far as, you know, locking yourself in as your entity that you can sell out to people.
Great. Thank you. Those are really great tips. So Cass, can you share some tips for successful interviewing in a virtual environment? And do nonverbal cues, dress, or background screens affect your impression of candidates? So
that's like a new world problem that we have, right? Everyone's virtual, like right now, right? And I'm gonna give you my personal side of this. I need the authentic side of you. By the way, anybody that interviews with me it's not going to be tremendously fun. The only reason why I say that is because I'm gonna make it a conversation. You can't prepare for me, right? Because I need to understand who I might be working with on a real basis, not in the interview. So I'm gonna give you real world type of things and situations. And so what that means is in a virtual environment, you still have to be respectable, on time, do all those basic things. But I need to know you, right? I don't need the fluff version of it, but at the same time being professional, right? The most authentic that you can be in it is pretty much the biggest key. Now, in this virtual world, it has changed drastically, right? When we first moved into it, you know, everyone was very worried about this little frame, right? What's in my background and things. And then the dog comes in, that becomes acceptable, right? Things like that. The cat jumps up in front of screens, become acceptable, right? So don't worry about, you know, really trying to keep your environments as sanitary as possible, because it's the real world. Now, nonverbal cues is like anything, right? You need to make eye contact with the camera at all times, right? Even as you take notes, this is my recommendation, you know, acknowledge, wait for a pause, write it down. I type. You guys don't even see my hands, but I type my notes. I got a nice soft keyboard, so you never know. So like right now I'm doing my keyboard. So those are the things that can help. So the recruiter or your hiring manager can go like, you're engaged, right? This whole time, right? I'm torn in between these background screens, you know, blur or not, or, you know, like you have there. It comes down to me, your personal choice. I keep mine open so you can see what my environment's like. This is me. I read on that couch, right? I got too many shoes. I need to let you know that I love photography. So you know a lot about me, right? Off the top. But other people, you don't have to do that, right? And I recommend, you know, keeping a pretty, I guess, straightforward background of some sort, because it is about you, right? So I would say that's the best thing. And invest in a good mic.
Good tip. Yes. So remember, a good mic, and also eye contact is extremely important. So just remember that, students, you are getting ready for that virtual interview. So Cass, I'd love for you to describe your creative process.
Oh, that's incredible, because it varies a lot of times, because I know a lot of people, you know, when I talk about creative process, is not just creative in art, meaning being creative artistically, but what you're doing is trying to find a solution to something, and you got to think about all the gears that will run that solution. So for me, my creative process starts with, of course, everyone talks about the problem, right? I break down what the issues in the project that's coming up. And after that, I go outside the circle of what the subject matter is. In other words, what I do is say I'm doing a design for a presentation for an executive, right? I leave the creative side of it and I go to the business side. So what are we trying to do? Who is it for? What's the goals we're trying to meet from the business case? Who's speaking? Who's going to be listening? What's the audience going to be like, right? And now I come back and I have this nice, global look at what the solution needs to be. Now my creative process is iterate a ton. I throw ideas out. I'm a digital guy now. I'm a pencil and paper back in the day, but with digital, I can throw things, delete things on a screen, and it helps me frame up ideas on the screen. And what I do is throw a ton of things to delete over 75% of those, right? And so I can narrow my ideas down, and then I expand back out with that one idea and do that same iteration. And then I narrow to my one, I would say, pod of an idea that I extrapolate throughout my whole solution at that point. So the process that was taught to me was, think small, go broad, think small again, and go broad after that of the idea. And that's worked for 25 years plus.
Wow, that's great advice.
Yeah, done it ever since college. So it's worked in some aspect.
That's great. So students, remember that you creative students that are out there, think small, go broad.
Even non-creative students, engineering students, anybody that has to do with that is a great process to adhere by.
Awesome, thank you. So how does your organization support diversity and inclusion in the hiring and development of employees of various backgrounds and experiences?
Well, if they know anything, it comes down to our values. It starts there. And based off of values like, being genuine, right? And thinking of that, we have a very strong diversity and inclusive department that is weaved into our core culture, right? And when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we have to get broad outside the realm of what we see it as. But we're talking about not only diverse in gender, diverse in race and things like that, but diverse in thinking, right? A person from back east is a lot different than someone back west versus someone south, just in Americas alone, right? So you want diverse people who bring different experiences to the table to get that broad piece, as I just discussed, right? An idea that sits along with me will only go so far, right? If I get collaborative of different people from different parts of the world, different parts of the country, different parts of even here, San Francisco is different than San Jose, right? So therefore, bringing that in helps bring, bigger ideas, better products, understanding of how that is. And then what I like to focus on more so than diversity is inclusivity, right? Being included, right? Once you're into this, we'll just say corporate world, right? How do I fit into this, right? And I think one thing Adobe does is that part. Here's why. I'm gonna give you a quick little, 45-second story. The reason why I worked at Adobe was I did an interview and I found myself, I would say, accidentally lost. I did it on purpose because I wanted to see, hey, everyone I met was great, but what about the people who don't know who I am? So I walked around and I randomly asked people, say, hey, I was wondering, hey, where's this conference room? And the person, instead of just pointing me in the right way, they actually walked me over there, right? It was in another building and everything. They said it was no problem. So I did it 3 times and 3 people did the same things. So I felt that was the culture of the place. So therefore I felt included because randomly, not knowing who I am, they went out their way to help me. So those things are very critical about your everyday. For you college students, here's the thing. You understand that you got to work 8 hours plus days, 5 days a week, pretty much doing the same thing for a month or two, right? So if you don't feel included in what you're doing, or feel that the diverse thinking around you, it's kind of hard to work every day. So I admit, I've been around the game a while. Adobe does a really good job of having me feel included and surrounding me around diverse people.
That's great.
And plus, we have these different employee networks. Pride, our Black Employee Network, Access, which is disability. We have a women's network. We have an Asian and Pacific Islander one. And we just started a Native American one, right? So all the networks work together, right? Even though separately, but we work together to bring that strong, diverse, and inclusive nature into it. I work close with all the networks.
Great. Thank you for naming off some of those resource groups.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So now we're going to get to the next part here. So Cass is going to go ahead and explain about these conferences.
Yeah. And the reason why I want to put this in front of you guys, if you guys are interested in Adobe of any means, right? Just maybe to work there or maybe not to work there, just to understand the company itself, which will help you understand the tech business a lot more too. Adobe Max is our creative conference, which showcases our creative software and our, as we say, document software, PDF, Acrobat, and things like that. And what it does is it gives a look into our new products that we launch, understanding how those products work. You get to meet people in the industry talking about what they do from a creative lens. Everything from actors to film directors to photographers to musicians. It's a hodgepodge of any interest that you might have. Plus, they have, if you're interested in learning about increasing your craft, as it says here, it's over 400 something sessions that you can go to today, and everything. And this is free for you. So if you want to learn more about how to, for photography, videography, you can have industry experts show you how to do those things, right? And I can't stress this enough that I think you should do that for your own personal brand. Whenever you're trying to if you're trying to video yourself, there's some sessions in there to help you enhance that, separate you from anybody. But more importantly, you get to understand the business of Adobe when it comes to the creative software aspect. And then one of my favorites outside of creative is the summit, which is our digital marketing piece, right? Is understanding our digital aspect of how we have software that connect, digital experiences to customers, and how we keep that loyalty, brand loyalty within that digital sphere, from analytic, targeting, all kind of different types of software. So you can get an understanding of how both of these work together, right? That builds who Adobe is today, right? So it covers, we have three different suites: Creative Suite, our experience, which is digital marketing, and then our document, which is PDF and Acrobat. These two conferences will give you all that, and both of them are for free. This is how I start anybody out if they want to know about Adobe. And once you get this one, when you interview, it's going to be a different story at that point, because you will know. It goes beyond Photoshop. Let's just say that.
Cass, how would students find out where to go for these conferences? Do they go to the Adobe website to search?
I can tell you right now, it's the most simplest thing in the world. For Max, is max.adobe.com. And guess what? The other one is summit.adobe.com.
Gotcha. That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to, hey, I at the end of this, I want to put out my information. I want to hear back from some of you on what do you think of the conferences. Because I used to be a creative producer. I produced shows in both of those. So I want to kind of get your feedback on what you think.
Great. And Evelyn is sharing the links with you.
Great.
As well, students. Great. Really, really great. Yeah. So if you do go to these conferences, please reach out to Cass, let him know what you think. Mm-hmm. Reach out to Cass, I believe. Well, he's going to give you details how you can connect. So anyways, So I'd love to hear from you about your opportunities.
Yeah. So here's just a short list of types of opportunities there. As I looked at everyone that chimed in and saw what their majors are, I think this fits in the area. One of my biggest recommendations is when we write job descriptions, they're really very general. So sometimes you read it and say, I don't fit into that. But understand that it's a basic skill set that they're looking for, that outside skill sets can still work. Like, for example, the first one, Creative Cloud Express social strategist, right? Creative Cloud Express is what you probably understand as Canva, right? It's our version of that, right? So with that, we need strategies on how do we expose, as I do from a purpose marketing standpoint, how do we get Creative Cloud Express through a social channel to the certain people, right? And that can vary from various different people, from a marketer to a creative, because I know some people from a finance standpoint, and understanding how, paid media works versus non-paid media. So in understanding how that operates, right? Experience development manager, right? Now we're talking about how do you develop an experience from a digital standpoint? In other words, when someone opens up an app, how do you take them from that opening to an end result and a continuation, right? How do you keep them engaged in that? So you manage that whole process in there. And what I show here is basically just a overview of what is needed, right? A description of it. There's more bullet points, but I didn't want to bore you with that. Customer experience strategy manager, same thing. We're really big about the experience. Think of building products coming up with certain services. It's about the experience that people go through, right? So when we build Photoshop, I can give you one synopsis of it. I helped run a booth where we had a device. It had 5 nodes on it that pulled your brain waves, assets of your brain waves on when you work on something creative, right? And I think it had, what was it? I think it was your focus, your heart rate, I think, and some other things about how you're thinking about using the tool. So when things got a little weird and your focus was off, that meant that the tool probably wasn't in the right area. So you're not having a really good experience. So what we would do is take that data and actually reconfigure the actual, application to kind of fit what we found out from pulling the data and analytics from it, to give a better experience when you're creating, right? Because you want the tools to be accessible to a point where it's easy for you to get what's in your head onto whatever you need to have happen from a creative lens. So those are the big things. And the last one is usually a big one: diversity, talent acquisition lead. That's a wide open, more diverse piece, right? How, for me, it's being a communicator, right? Trying to obtain talent, diverse talent, and trying to bring them into Adobe, and have a strong interest in being able to tag them and associate them with opportunities at Adobe.
That's great.
But I can go in more depth if anyone wants me to.
Yeah, that's great. And then, did you want to talk about your program?
Yeah, so I run various different programs. As I ran one there at San Jose State for the San Jose State football program, where we have a micro internship program, where I bring student athletes. At this point, it was virtual, but normally we come down to the office and do a 2-week micro internship program. So that's one thing. But the other one that's really cool is, before the pandemic, I would bring out creative students. Not really all creative students. I brought some business students out. What I do is bring them out to our conferences like Max, Summit, our sales conference. And what they do is, photographers and videographers and designers, and like I said, the business majors come out, and we capture the whole experience in photos and video and in design for social and for just our communication group to be able to use those assets and be able to capture it. I've been doing that for 5 years. We've done everybody from UC Berkeley, at UC Berkeley, University of North Carolina, University of New Mexico, Utah, Alabama, Clemson University. So all the creative campuses pretty much as yourself. So now that things look like it's coming around the corner, I think this is a time to bring San Jose State into fold. It's long overdue. All our events now are still virtual, but we do all the filming in the office. So I'll give you a scenario. Even for business, computer majors, computer science majors, or anyone like that still can participate in that. You come in because there's a lot of programming of the show, right? And you get to see the back, behind the curtain look of everything. And I can bring out those students, come in there and shoot the experience that we do inside the office and filming it. Things, when you see our conference, you understand that it's a big, huge production that you can learn a ton from, right? How this works. How does it work with marketing, right? Then how does it work in sales? So you get a whole business kind of circular type piece, right? Not just a creative piece, but you learn about the business of Adobe at that point. So I'll be bringing that up probably this summer and start trying to source people. So